It's our 9th annual Sustainability Week. Next year's our 10th anniversary. It gives a good opportunity to reflect how we've done over the past decade. And maybe with the focus on the insurance industry in particular, how would you sort of characterize their involvement? Have we seen progress or not enough in the past 10 years?
The insurance industry is in a really difficult and interesting place. I guess interesting is a polite way to put it. Insurers are data-driven. They're all about risk. They're sort of society's risk managers. So in a way, they're perfectly placed to be a good kind of steward of climate action. One of the first sort of really mainstream warnings about global warming actually came from an insurance company called Munich Re 50 years ago, 1973. So they get it. They do get the dynamics of what's happening here. However, they haven't acted anywhere near fast enough, I would say, to generalize about the whole industry in that time. So what we're seeing is that extreme weather events across the world are causing massive economic losses. I mean, of course, they're like killing people and destroying people's livelihoods, but they're also causing monetary loss. So 270 billion is the figure in 2022. The insurance industry is on the hook for a lot of those payouts. But the way that they're currently responding is to hike up their prices so they can make some money back, or just leave affected areas altogether. So California, you've got 3 of the biggest home insurers in the US have said we're not doing any new house insurance in California. Similar things happening in Florida, Louisiana, parts of Australia. And so what you're left with is like these communities of people who are really vulnerable to a wildfire or a hurricane coming in and wiping out their home, and suddenly not having insurance cover to back them up. The really crucial irony here is that a lot of those same companies are still insuring fossil fuel expansion. So there's parts of Louisiana where you have people going, I can't get my house insured, but the LNG terminal down the road can get its insurance. And so what we're trying to say to insurers is, look, you can come up with all these innovative products. We absolutely encourage that can support clean tech and renewable energy. But if you were a doctor looking at a patient with diabetes and saying, I'm going to come up with this solution and we're going to treat you in this way, while at the same time spoon feeding you sugar, you're going to undermine all the good work that you're doing. So the argument we're really trying to make is, stop feeding the problem. You have to deal with the problem at the root, at the cause, which is fossil expansion. And that's, it's not just NGOs like us. That's the message coming from the IPCC, the International Energy Agency, Deloitte, WWF, all the sort of major institutional experts in this space are saying the same thing.
And so insurance companies, they're responding this way because they're just prioritizing financial returns. Is that right? Like, how do we get them to do more? Is it about a culture change within the industry? Is it about regulation? Are there some companies that are demonstrating leadership, but they're only few and far between? What would you say?
All of the above. So, insurance is, by its nature, a short-term industry. So they'll write a contract annually. And so there's a little bit of the tragedy of the horizon thing here, where the industry is failing to think long-term and is currently, looking at quarterlies, looking at the year ahead, thinking about their shareholders. The problem with that is that they are creating uninsurable risks. So they are fueling a crisis that they cannot insure. And as those territories that they can't insure mount, they're gonna harm themselves financially as well.
Right.
Because if you suddenly start going, oh crap, we can't do home insurance, in Tewkesbury, let's say in the UK, because the flooding risk is so high, there's another part of the world you can't do business. So yes, we need them to think long term. Regulation has a big role to play here. There's definitely a, like a first mover problem. So insurance companies are naturally quite cautious, and hesitant to be the first to step forward. There are leaders. I would say AXA, Allianz, they're sort of more in the space of leadership. Munich Re, company I mentioned earlier, is at Lloyd's of London. They were the first to say, no more oil and gas.
Right. Is that the first step, you think? Don't insure new oil and gas projects and then deal with the fact that they're pulling out of markets, like you say, like California? What would you say? Is there a prioritization that you would?
Absolutely. I mean, the stop fueling the problem has got to be number one. And I know it's not the most positive side of this because we're saying exclusion, we're saying you have to restrict your coverage to fossil fuel expansion, but all the other resilience and mitigation measures that are so important are totally undermined if you're just making the world more chaotic, the weather more extreme.
And if we look ahead to the sort of next 10 years, right? Where would you say where should our action and focus be over the next 10 years? Where's your action
on
and
insurance?
Focus?
Or
yeah, and more broadly.
Yeah. Okay, well, specifically for the insurance industry over the next 10 years, I would say you guys are the great enablers. You know, you are uniquely placed to assess risk and enable new technologies to come online, to say we have confidence in this is going to work out, and to sort of assist with some of that research and development that can really bring online the sort of clean tech that we need. I would also say this is a period of time that will be historicized. People will look back and go, what did you do in those 10 years? And I would just really implore the industry not to start a new consultation or do another report. We know what the solutions are. We have huge power to change the way that the system works. So I would say come to the table, engage with NGOs, engage with academia, talk to policymakers, talk about the existential threat to your own industry. And let's all be part of that conversation together. In terms of like the sort of broader change I would love to see is that we have to take this conversation, not exactly like this, but like we have to share it out more broadly. I think we are not lacking solutions necessarily. I think often we're lacking the ability to communicate and imagine. And when we don't communicate with just like ordinary people who are trying to live their lives who aren't in the climate space, we can incur backlash because they're like, whoa, all these solutions are sort of coming from the top down. It's actually one of the reasons I hate to say this, but it's one of the reasons I don't love the word sustainability, because it sort of sounds like out there somewhere, and it's kind of like, it's kind of a clean corporate word. What we're really talking about is like making a cleaner, safer
saving the
home.
planet. Right.
Yeah, although saving the planet kind of makes it feel over there. Like we're talking about like you and your kids, you want a safe, healthy, secure place to grow up. Everyone wants that, regardless of their political background or religious background, whatever. And so engaging people on that and not just the industry or NGOs, but like people who are just trying to sort of put food on the table and raise their families, like bringing them into the solutions, I think is key for the next 10 years, yeah.
Will Attenborough from Coal Action Network. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.